I'm in the 80s and I'm loving it. Hello and welcome to Andertons TV. My name is Jack Duxbury, he's Tay-Tay, and this is the UDO Super 6. That's the sound of patch 3, bank B. Sat at the Super 6. Why are we sat here? Did a video a long while back, where I played through the patches, really didn't understand the thing. Now Andertons are sorting me out some time that I get to spend before I film these videos. So I spent yesterday, had about 3-4 hours with it, and I'm going to give you my perspective on it. On a larger arcing storyline over the next few months. Tell me in the comment section if you're interested in this, but I'm planning on buying a PolySynth and buying it for my birthday, July the 19th, if anyone's interested. And over the coming weeks, I'm going to be trying out the things like this, the Summit, even paraphonic ones like the Matriarch. So let us know in the comments which ones I should check out and which do you think you would buy. And the reason why we got the Super 6 here is that this is the one that really captured my imagination with the presets. And after this time, what have I learned? What have I learned? It's an amazingly complex synthesizer that works magic in the stereo field. Taylor's got his headphones on there, he can hear that, right? And if you've got headphones on, you'll hear that too. There's a magic stereo nature to it. 12 voices, but it's called the Super 6. That's because when we're in this binaural mode, actually that isn't even in binaural mode. Let's get it into an initialized state. To do that, we hit Shift and Manual. Shift again, and this is what it sounds like initialized. Like any old synth, right? But now we've got this binaural mode, and that means that it took those 12 voices, paired them up into 6, hence the Super 6, and that means that they have their own individual path, left and right, hard panned left and right. And with the LFOs, which can operate not only very complex waveforms and wave shapes here, but also they can work. LFO1 is very complex and manipulates the left and right phase of those oscillators. So anything along the chain that uses LFO1, we can start wiggling and changing its relationship in the stereo field, which is, to me, I've never come across. And I think that's why when I hear it, it hits me in the heart. I'm like, wow, I love every sound out of this thing. I love that it hasn't got a screen. That was a great thing yesterday, but also I've had to really wrap my head around it and some new things. So let's talk about some of the new things that you might not understand that I think I got in those few hours. Firstly was the oscillator section. Normally I can sit here and go, oh yeah, now we've got a saw wave and we've got this type of thing. And oh, it's a VCO, it's a DCO. So what's a DDS? Direct Digital Synthesis. These are really high quality FPGA oscillators where I read into the spec crazy. We're talking megahertz of sample quality, and I met George Hearn, the guy that designed it, who's a genius and a lovely chap, very passionate, and I love the fact that I know how passionate he is about that. It makes me want to buy it. That's why it's first on my list. And he was so adamant that you're not sacrificing things by having a digital oscillator. You're almost getting more warmth. And if I put it in, we're in this initialized state, just listen to a lowly sine wave. It's all the warmth and purr to the sound. I think they're beautiful. Let's flick through some of this. We've got a sine wave, we've got a saw wave. Square. and triangle. When I'm pressing down, we'll get to that. We've got a performance section here, really well scaled aftertouch. Can really bring it in. And if you don't know what aftertouch is, it's once you've pressed the note, dig a little bit deeper. There's a strip in there that senses it. It's so much fun. Got noise. And then this crazy bit, we've got wavetables, single cycle waveforms, and then these 16 buttons become the buttons for selecting those waveforms. W1, 2, 3, 4, all that. So you can hear really crazy, complex timbres, right? Whilst we're here, let's go over and listen to the second oscillator with this mixer, so we can go all the way over here. And we've got similar things. Noise, but when we get round to the square wave, we can adjust its pulse width, the width of the square. I'll get to the LFO in a minute, but that can be modulated by the LFO with this switch, or envelope 1, or both. Really cool. Now, does some other crazy things, DDS too. If I go over to LFO mode here, we get nothing. If I flick this switch up, now I'm selecting it as a sub oscillator. So I've got a big fat sub oscillator, which means if I put this with, I can get. So you can get really fat subtone out of it. Let's go back to that oscillator. Also, if I flick it up there, we can use audio in. I'll get to that because it sounds unreal. The filters will do that in a bit. Might take a while getting through this, but thanks if you even lasted this far. This switch also, once we've got two oscillators going together, for example, like two saw waves. By the way, they're so clunky. Listen to that. Oh, we've got two saw waves now, so let's listen to that. And in this state, you're hearing a mix of it, simple as that. But if I flick it up, now it crossfades it from this oscillator up here to and this, like it says split point there, will change where the crossfade happens. So over here it will be more down to the left. So there we've got a crossfade. If I go that way, really unique, crazy. And I can imagine these complex, they're not complex, they're really obvious once I figured it out, but they don't come up on other synths very often, which again inspires me to think, I want to buy this one because I'll never get bored of it. Because of these, I can imagine sitting in it. I'm sure I'm going to miss loads of bits in this video, but that inspires me to think that in the future, I'll find those bits. When I'm bored and I'm thinking, I want to buy another synth, I can relearn the Super 6 and find something new about it. So we're still here in oscillator land. And sync, so we can get traditional sync sound. So that's the oscillator section. Now going back to just DDS1. Super special bit, right? The Super. Why Super 6? This is it, where it's at, DDS1. Got a traditional waveform like this saw wave. But when I flick this switch, you hear it? Even more. What's that doing? So it's taking that saw wave, and when I flick this switch, it's put 6 other versions of that saw wave left and right, side by side with it. At halfway, they're kind of like half the volume, tapered off like that. And at full, there's 6 full sister, with like a whole, sisters are doing that for themselves. There's 6 of them rocking out. And that is a traditional super saw wave. So really princey, dope, but that works on every oscillator, including these waves. So if I go around to a triangle, poor old triangle. Now, I can, up here, Super DDS, I can detune them. I can get that modulation going. And it works on these wavetables as well. So just with one oscillator, you could ignore this bit. I don't know why I did it with my arm, but let's do it with my hand. I could ignore that and get really fat timbres out of it. Very cool. Now, where do I want to go next? Let's listen to the filter, because I thought that was really... It's the simple, cooking with really good simple ingredients was the feeling I got with this keyboard, right? Back to just a plain old saw wave. Let's give it the super. Nice. And we're going to save the filter. I mean, I buy it just for that. It's a CCM, no, SSM, that's it. Curtis is the other one, SSM, like the original Prophet. And it's 24 dB low pass filter. Now, if I crank up the resonance, you'll hear the bottom end go away. Hear that go away? What I love is, if I flick this drive to 1, it compensates for that. So check it out. Without it, with it, I ain't losing no bottom end. Already, what an innovation. I dig that. And then my favourite bit, which I used even on a song yesterday, because I took it into the other room and went, guys, you got to hear this, is this top drive thing really makes the frequency, the filter sizzle. So let's hear that without. Max it out. It burns in and makes it sound like I've recorded it to tape or VHS, and that's that nostalgic sound. One oscillator with a little bit of this super stuff on there and that filter, oof. It's got a high pass filter as well. So in that track, I had a pad going, and they were like, oh, it was a bit too much low end. No worries. Got a fixed low pass filter, or one that will track the frequencies on here, so they kind of go together. Just really nice. I want to, hey, oh, it's a bit muddy there. Flick that switch, sorted. Key tracking, half and full, so that means it's a self-resonant filter. I won't do it because it always blows everyone's ears out. But I could play the filter. I never need to do that. Over here, we can modulate that filter with either the envelope 1, which has a hold function. It's loopable as well. We'll get into that. I'm sure you know what that is. And if you don't, check out, there's a great video of George Hahn going through it. Anyway, we can choose what that gets modulated by, and we'll talk about how special LFO1 is in a minute. Over here in the VCA, what I thought was cool was, with these 2 envelopes, it's controlled by default with envelope 2. So if I want a bit of release, so I can put a bit of a softer attack. Love it. But if I want to use that for something else, because you'll often see, as I did yesterday, oh crikey, I can patch that. It's almost like a modular synth in the fact that there's so many options per section of where I can send it, let alone the mod matrix when we get there, all right? Got that slow attack. It's also got fixed envelopes, which I thought was a really handy thing. So that means I don't have to use that for the VCA, because that's a pretty... And then it's got one with a little bit of release on it. So fixed envelope. It's dynamic in the intro as well. That's a preset. If I go back to it, patch 3, patch B3. I was like, oh, I want that to respond to my dynamics. Really nice. I love that. Just really simple choices. Half on, dig it. Envelopes, we got all the way over here. Let's go back and let's try get across what I got from the LFO. So if I go back to this initialized patch, shift, manual shift, here we are. Back to our single saw wave. This LFO1 is the secret sauce for me, and the cross mod, but we'll get there in a minute. LFO1 is very complex for me to get my head around. We've got lots of different wave shapes, and we've got this very important thing called LR phase. Because we've got those independent stereo paths of the oscillators, hard pan and left and right, so 12 into 6 pairs left and right. I don't know why I keep doing this. But the left and right, if you imagine the LFO will modulate things with different waves, the left and right phase creates all this action. And there's loads of places where LFO1 is used. LFO1, LFO1, LFO1. I started seeing it all like the Matrix. Like, oh, crikey. LFO1 with this LR phase thing is making everything move and undulate in a very pleasing way, which is what the characteristic sound of this synth is. So how do we get it going? With one waveform, okay? Bring in so we can use LFO1 here to modulate this oscillator. It's doing pitch at the moment. Now, because we're in binaural mode, if I bring in LR phase, it'll be quite subtle. Let's bring down the frequency a bit. Try a different waveform. I can really hear it with the random one. Same over here with this filter. Let's start bringing in the LFO on the filter to modulate that. You hearing it with the headphones, Tay-Tay? It's quite subtle, but when you got, even with these monitors, if I listen, I'm getting that left and right movement. And I can manipulate the phase of that, but because there's varying amounts of LFO on each thing, we get these weird relationships that just move by moving this slider. I love that. If I turn it into a super wave, really start hear it sizzle with that heat on the filter, sizzling left and right. And because I can choose the LFO, hopefully you can hear that, right? And that's, so let's stick with this patch. That's beautiful to me. Now, we've got that one oscillator. Let's bring in oscillator 2. Soften the attack a bit. Bit release. It's got a mind of its own. Sticking over here with the, so we've got that random waveform going on over here. Change it over to, you can, so you can hear. Now in high frequency mode, you heard it go, this essentially becomes up into the audio rates, like another oscillator. So we get these very interesting kind of FM timbres. And what I've found, I'll do it with the cross mod now actually, is a bit of genius has gone on there, where normally I'm scared of these things, but I can hear that they all somehow, there'll be a bit, probably about 8 or 10 places on that slider. It's a joy where you can just feel it all kind of come into tune and it becomes a bit musical. But we're in a PolySynth, so I can still play chords. In these demos, you've seen me stack it however many times if you watch my other videos, where it's really dangerous to go off piste and play with things like cross modulation and FM, because I'm like, it ruins my chords. Suddenly this interval that I'm playing that I know works goes, and the way he scaled it is beautiful. So if I dial back the LFO on these things, get into the magic of this cross mod slider. I reckon he's put it there, oh Georgie Hearn, he's put it there for good reason, because it's right in the meat of it, and I ignored it for the first few hours, and then later on last night I went, oh crikey, it's all in the cross mod. And I don't know if it's going to happen now, but we'll give it a go. Let's go D. melts my heart, man. This keyboard. So the cross mod is doing exactly what loads of synth heads I know you've screaming at me for ages. Oh, you never used the cross mod option, because it would go balls up every time I did it. But the way that scaled, you can hear me. I go, oh, and every time I change a relationship, there'll be a new slot on the fader where it all seems to come into harmony, and that is beautiful. What an amazing thing he's made. And then there, when I was playing these chords, the polyphonic portamento, check this shit out. Unreal. The way that those voices move, it's so cool. If you wanted a special bit in the song, James Blake's a great user of polyphonic portamento. That's what we talk about down the pub, or when they open again. Got this patch. Let's stick with this patch. I'll turn the portamento down. Let's whack on the chorus. Beautiful. It's like whenever you think, oh, is someone in the studio? It's like, I want it sounding like a Juno poosh, chorus. We got it. Now, I'm going to go over to these Wavetable Synths and check out the palette that we get going now. So I love that. Once I had a sound get going yesterday, bit like that, I could flick this DDS one into the wavetable, and I've got 16 flavors that all seem to magically refresh the sound. And you can swap those out. I think it just works like a drag and drop interface. So if you've got your own favorite waveforms, so I know Taylor does, he could drag and drop those in. Very, very cool. We've got another, what you're hearing when I dig in, right? All that wibbly wobbly stuff. We've got another LFO, so that's how complex this bad boy is over here. We've got a very simple LFO, a bit like me, that is in this performance section. Now, if I want to just reset the performance section, just bring these both down, and then I get no wibbly wobbly. And again, it's there, they put it there, now I start to see it. We've got all these arrows and lines, and they're telling me what these things do. Left and right, that means my wiggle stick. If I want it to control the filter, let's crank that up. Cool, if I want to change the pitch of it, simple as that. That's if I want to use the stick. If I want to, it's got a very short travel, but I kind of dig that. I kind of dig this. It's very firm. It reminds me a bit of when I first dealt with the Nord pitch stick. I was like, ooh, what's going on here? But it's posh. Try it out. And at the moment, if I say I could do the filter this way, but it's controlled by this rate of LFO2 here. I can delay the onset of that. Really musical, really beautiful. I can flick it to, it can either be aftertouch and this. So now I'm controlling it with my aftertouch. Same with the modulation of the pitch of the DDS. Here it go wobbly, and that I can either just modulate DDS1. It's all there, like you're like, all right. Because this was freaking me out. I thought this looks like a science exam. This isn't fun. And it's the opposite, it's really fun. I love it. What a cool guy. Let's reinvigorate that patch. Just go shift, manual, shift again and get a back to an initialized state. Shift, manual, shift. Let's make this short. Let's apply some filtering with some envelope. And let's get the Arpeggiator running, because that was quite fun yesterday. Put some burn in that filter. As soon as I flick that, I'm like, right, I'm in the 80s and I'm loving it. And we've got a delay. Crazy, right? Don't want to do it, but they thought of that. I was like, oh, that's a bit mad when I was doing the Arpeggiator. But if I hit sync, syncs it all in, including the LFO. Right there, when I love it when I can coax that level of distortion out. I can see the meters, we're nowhere near peaking. And that is fun. The only other keyboard that I had that out of was the Matriarch. I can remember where I could drive the mixer and get that distortion. And to me, distortion is so important to beautiful sounds. I'm pretty sure that's about it. I'm sure, I know there's loads, oh, also modulation. So if I'm back here in a pretty normal sound, say, because I know modulation is a big thing and it freaks me out sometimes. So I'm like, well, what do I really want to modulate? You give me all this, but again, it's all in front of me here. Mod amount, minus 100, plus 100, the information is there. It's as simple as going, okay, I want aftertouch, says AT, to modulate, say, the cross mod here. So let's get 2 oscillators going. Got that sound. If I hit mod assign, then hit aftertouch, it says AT there, and then cross mod, and then I've got to tell it how much, and check it out. You see these lights? That's because up here it says 0% to 100%, and I can go negative 100%. Started to see it all. I was like, oh, a bit freaked out by it, but now I get it. And then I'm like, okay, cool. So that's going on. Also, I can actually modulate any control, which one of the limitations without the screen is you can't see those modulations, but I kind of think that's cool. I can do it in another way where I go modulation assign, and maybe I want aftertouch to do the frequency. And then I go, how much? That much. Not very musical, but you could see how complex they can be, because any control, as long as I hit mod assign and what the source of the modulation is, I can have it all moving. And you can hear that in some of the factory patches, which are ruddy, beautiful. That's it. I know I've gone on a while, but that's what I learned in those few hours. Please tell me in the comments what other keyboards I should use my time with on a Thursday, and give you that perspective of a guy that's had a day with it. Hopefully it can be of use to you. That's the whole point of this channel, is that we're trying to make videos, believe it or not, that are useful to you in informing you about what to spend your money on. I'm going to just do something different at the end, because there's so many great videos out there on this. I'm going to show off the audio in. I'm going to play a drum beat through it, and that'll play us out. If you like what we're doing, consider subscribing. If you don't, let us know in the comments. But don't be mean to Taylor, because he makes everything look beautiful, and I'm coming for you. Thanks for watching.